as we are getting into game number 1. And spawning in the top right hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have his opponent. We have the Australian Terran. He just 2-0'd Vindicta. It is Azure. Oh boy, both players doing quite well for themselves in their runs here to the upper bracket finals. Really impressive stuff, but now they face off, and again, Trigger is still the one to beat. I would have expected a Vindicta versus Trigger upper bracket finals, to be honest. I would have loved to have seen it, but instead Azure has caused the upset, and he's here to try and challenge our Canadian Protoss instead. How would it affect balance if you could crush stuff under a Terran building? I mean, you're an animal, Lordy. You're an animal. Aye, aye, aye. Shaking my head. PF Rush would become OP. It would become disgusting. Look, Terran is already disgusting. They don't need anything else. Really, if anything, Terran buildings when they land. Maybe they should just take damage when they land, you know? The impact is too strong. Balance, papi. Oh. As we're getting into our game, and we do see Azure not going for a Rax expand, actually going for a double gas opener instead, something a little bit more aggressive. The probe is denied entry into the main, so Trigger is in the dark. Technically, a duck is an animal. I am an animal. True. Quack, papi, quack. Aye, aye, aye. Zerg buildings should bleed out when they get low. Kind of like the fire thing. I see what you're saying, because Terran buildings can burn. Maybe. It's, you know what's weird to me? Like, aesthetically, whenever the Zerg are using the mechanical skin, and whenever Zerg buildings are on fire, it looks like it ruins my brain. It's like I see it's on fire and nothing is happening. Like my brain is like associating it with Terran buildings. I'm like, it should be losing HP. Like the skin should be a bad thing, but it is, you know, just not the case. Shaking my head. As yeah, we're getting into our game number 1. We do see a Twilight Council opening here from Trigger as well, so interesting stuff. Not going to be going for the Stargate. Feels good, man. If Azure was here, he'd be very happy. No Phoenix Colossus. You'd love to see it. And with this, we should be getting into Blink. Meanwhile, Azure has been pumping out quite a number of Reapers and Hellions, more than is normal. And the wall is not quite a wall, so Azure is going to be looking to bust on into the natural or into the main, into a mineral line to try and roast up some of those probes. Has hidden the majority of his units, but the initial Reapers have been spotted, and Trigger is setting up a little bit of SimCity here. Here we go, Azure trying to draw out those units, but here we go, he's getting ready here with 4 Reapers and 2 Hellions. The whole position is on point, but we can KDA charge them out of that wall. Azure, though, he's not going for it. Interesting. Just gonna be dancing with the units, picking off that gateway. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, part of me wishes that Azure just aped in, but I guess he's maybe anticipating Trigger to be too good with his defense. Doesn't go for it. Does back off. And back at home, hey, we've been talking about this. I even brought it up how we've been seeing the 2-on-1 pop up a little bit more in TVP when Azure did it against Vindicta, and now we're seeing it here again. I guess he's fond of it. Just do it in every matchup. It's all you need, apparently. Against Terran, Zerg, and Protoss. So here we go. For the time being, we're going to be dancing with the Stalkers of Trigger. The Cyclone does get a lock on. First, the second Stalker goes down. Can we get the third? Oh, ooh, we just barely will not. As again, with the power of this Cyclone, we can trade relatively well, but the Stalkers, they're just a little bit too much. They're going to be able to overwhelm and overpower the units of Azure. Behind this, of course, we do see Trigger playing around with this build that's been rising in popularity here in TVP as well, sorry, in PvT, going for the 2-gate opener into Blink into a faster third Nexus. Much more economic, less aggressive, less in the face of the Terran. We saw this yesterday, actually. We saw a Hero doing this. We've seen Stats doing this as well. But the Stalkers have made their way across the map, and oh, there's nothing here at the Natural to defend. No bunker either. The Marine stim is still not done, and Azure doesn't want to throw away his Marines. Oh, brutal as he is forced up into his main. Medevacs are on the way, so now he can be active on the map. But he's got to be careful. The Stalkers, they're waiting for him. We have a third Rax finishing up behind this. Stim finishing up in 10 seconds. And Trigger is getting away with quite a bit of greed. Oh boy. Behind this, we've got our Bay on the way. We've got our Colossus production, Forge, +1. Working up towards 4 gates now. And Azure is being contained, and this is pretty brutal, to be honest. Again, ideally with this build, you want to be hitting a timing with Stim. Marines being shaved off one after the other. Again, this is also kind of the downside of this build, is that this does eat into your tank production, does delay them, does mean you're more vulnerable to blink heavy styles. As Trigger does. No! Azure! The taste alive. Yeah, totally. Aye. It was doing nothing wrong. It wasn't even in the way. These Terran players, they're animals. Jesus Christ. Azure is going to be just reinforcing and looking to push out here. Another couple of medevacs on the way. But again, he has been slowed down quite a bit. At least now he's hitting like a bit of a later timing with +1 and with combat shield. So he still has quite a bit of force here behind his push. Does spot the Observer as well. Keen eye there by Azure. But the problem is, back at home, we already have Colossi. Like, any kind of bio-oriented push shouldn't really do too much damage. Trigger has plenty to defend. He's even splitting off his army to anticipate a drop into the main base. And he's getting fully saturated on 3 bases. Trigger getting miles ahead here in the economy. Soon, I imagine, to be taking a 4th. As he does send out a couple of spotter units here. There we go, setting up for that 4th Nexus. Azure does scan a spot and army here at the 3rd. Should recognize that quite a bit is missing. Oh god, no, he's committing! No! Oh my god, I know that it won you the TVTs, Poppy, but he's going to be going for a Doom Drop into the main. Okay, thankfully he's satiated with the 4th instead. Aye. And there we go, he's not done, he just picks up, and now he's going to be going into the main base. Does go for the scan though, this time does confirm the positioning of the army, and does back off, thankfully. Azure looking for another way in, and here we go. There is no 3rd CC. There is no other way that this can end. We're going for the all-in. We're pulling the boys. We're Terran. This is this is how you TVP, Poppy. Let's go, Poppy. Let's go. Alright, Colossus are moving on out. Oh, Trigger missing the army. Trying to get eyes on where Azure is. Tanks will be sieging on up. Charge is done. Oh, but we have 3 Colossi. I don't. This is not gonna work. Even the 3 Colossi on their own, mate. The swipes are real, and not a single one will go down. The overcharge was a little bit too good, and the bio army melts. GG. Aye. Oof. I appreciate pulling the boys, but you know, again, Colossi, they're kind of built for that situation when we get enough of them. And 3 of them are just a little bit too much. GG, Trigger does take the first game. But it's a best of 3. We can always fight back, and Azure is going to be looking to do so in game number 2. But again, I always really enjoy. I'm really enjoying the 2-on-1 variations here in TVP as well. It's a little more active. It's a little more dynamic. Quite risky, as we saw. Doesn't always pan out, but you love to see it. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gress Farm, we have the Canadian Protoss player currently leading this series 1-0. Oh my god, yo, shout out to Trigger in the chat. Redeeming a replay cast. Papi, if you want to help me, if you want to message me on Discord, you can send me the replay if you wish. Spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have our Canadian Protoss player leading this series 1-0, representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gress Farm, we have his opponent. We have the Australian Terran with an SCV across the map. It is Azure. Aye. Here we go with a proxy racks across the map. Only a singular one for those, I imagine, Reapers. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it to see if he does throw down a Tech Lab and go proxy Marauder. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen that build, to be honest. But was popular for a time in TVP. I think it was the most popular in the 2000 Atmospheres era of StarCraft a couple of years ago. I always remember Piglet doing it against Probe in ANZ Champs. But we shall see as the Probe of Trigger does get across. Now, I've just confirmed that the Rax is missing, and it is in fact just going to be that one Reaper. Oh. And as we get into this, massive shout out to Air Orange in the chat. Papi, a long-time supporter of the channel. Thank you so much for resubscribing for 17 months. Oh my god, almost 2 years. Almost. We're getting there, Papi. We're getting there. Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it. As Azure's gonna be throwing down that bunker, I believe that was scouted by Trigger. Oh my god, he sees the racks itself. Ooh, maybe not the best positioning there from Azure, but everything is confirmed by Trigger. Does also see the factory across the map, recognizing that Azure is transitioning and it is only a single racks. Reaper does slip into the main base and does not get a probe. Nice control there from Trigger. Does pull back the weakened worker. Is looking to regain control of his natural. There we go. Shield battery on the way. I love the use of this pylon. I was about to say that we aren't really set up to throw down a shield battery, but I guess we are, because the pylon is dual purposed. You know, it is set up for the shield battery and is spotting the low ground. And I guess denying the Reaper cliff as well, to be fair. Stalkers move on forward, focus down the SCV. And yeah, this should eventually be cleaned up now, especially now that we have that shield battery. We're trying to focus down the Nexus of all things. But we're not going to be able to do too much more here, especially without that SCV. We do force a salvage, and up! Ooh, it is barely going to get salvaged in time. Ooh. As Azure is forced back. They'll be trying to utilize these side blockers. Oh no! Oh no! Unfortunately, not quite utilizing them to the best effect. It is going to lose everything here. I love the idea. I love the idea from Azure, but execution slipping up a little bit. As the Marines do go down, Cyclone rocks up, and Cyclone's going to be able to at least clean up one of these Stalkers, but not the other. So we're able to recall in time. Behind this, we already had our Twilight Council. We got our Blink on the way. Second Gateway and our Forge. And yeah, unfortunately, the opener here from Azure didn't really get the damage that he was looking for. Didn't really delay too much mining either, just because of the positioning of the bunker as well. Like, we didn't really get to talk much about it, but typically when we proxy like this and when we have a bunker, it's in the mineral line to deny mining, but it was only threatening the Nexus itself. So Trigger had a relatively easy time dealing with that. Could mine efficiently. And we do see Azure getting eyes onto the third Nexus. And Trigger is looking to try and hunt this down as well. The intercept from these Stalkers. As this time, the turtle is right side up. Wait, what? Wait. Hold on. Am I crazy? For the people that were watching the last game, or the last series, the turtle, it's... What happened? What changed? Last time it was upside down. Okay. Never mind. I guess it fixed itself. There we go. GG. As the Cyclone does get hunted down by those Stalkers. The turtle, it's playing with us, Poppy. It's playing with us. What's going on? Nothing to see here, apparently. As behind this, a pretty similar setup to the previous game on Ancient Sister. Off of 2 racks, we did take our 3rd base, did get Blink, but a relatively passive play style here. A much more economic focus, I should say. The Stalkers more heavily focused on the defense, no Prism or anything like that, and from here we're getting straight into Colossi production as well. So yeah, pretty safe and economic way to play this out. Gonna be able to get away with it as well. We do see Azure trying to apply some pressure across the map with this Raven. Is going to be looking for some auto turret harass, but we already have a shield battery here, so yeah, we do have ways to minimize that damage. There we go, we blink on forward, take down that auto turret. Raven does survive. Behind this, we are just getting set up on 2 bases. We got our 3 racks already done. +1 on the way. Only a single NG bay. I'm curious if Azure is going to try and throw down a 3rd CC, or if he's going to be pulling the boys once again. I mean, as opposed to game 1, like, he hasn't really sustained too many economic losses. Been able to preserve his SCV count, hasn't had these Stalkers get out of hand. Yeah, we'll see when he does decide to move out. His tank count is getting quite high as well. We're already up to 4 tanks. We got a 5th tank on the way. We have our Raven. Sure, we use an auto turret across the map, but we will have enough NG for a disable. At least 1. As long as we're able to keep it alive, of course. And here we go. Now that the medevacs have arrived, we will not be pushing out with the army. Going to be going for a double drop instead. There is a spotter observer and a pylon in position though, so best of luck to Azure to try to avoid them. As Trigger is splitting up some of these Stalkers, but he's getting vision here towards the north, not towards the south. As Azure is looking to try and collapse on these Stalkers. Yo, you love to see the setup. Here we go. He does force a blink and he comes in from behind. Stalkers are going to be focused down. Nicely done here by Azure. 1 Stalker will escape, but only 1. And here we go. Now Azure can break free. Liberator's coming out behind this. +1 defense as well. He goes for the scan, and he sees an insane amount of Zealots. 3 Colossi already, and a shield battery. Again, because we went into that Colossus production so early on, I don't know if we can ever push up the ramp. Likewise, I feel like Trigger's being maybe a little bit overzealous. Does force a siege at least, but takes a couple of shots to his Zealots. Be careful, Poppy. Be careful. Here we go, he's setting up a bit of a surround instead. Looking to come in from behind. Templar's going to go down. No Storm, but maybe looking to feedback. Zealous not going for a surround, actually going for a massive counterattack instead. Oh, the 3rd CC on location is going to be punished. Ay, ay, ay. There it is. At least it's a kill, not a cancel. But back at home, what do we have to defend? We have 2 Liberators, no tanks, only a handful of Marines. We could have committed, but no, we do pull back. We respect the Liberators. And we can set up for that surround, but here we go. We're already diving on in. The tanks were on siege for a moment. 1 tank does go down, and here we go. Here come those Zealots. GG gets called, and Trigger takes the series at 2-0. Unfortunately, there was no more longevity there for Azure. Cancelled his 3rd CC. Oh, GG. Aye, aye, aye. Powerful play there by Trigger. Again, very similar kind of approaches to the game, both in game 1 and game 2. GG. Trigger moves on to the grand finals, but it's double elimination. It is a double elim. Azure gets knocked down to the lower brackets, and he has another series ahead of him. We have a rematch. Let's go, Poppy. Let's go. We don't really have the replays for it, but Vindicta did fight his way up that lower bracket. I believe he took down Paco Mike to make it to the lower bracket finals, and he is awaiting his rematch. Azure looked so damn good earlier on in the tournament, taking down Vindicta 2-0 in a pretty damn impressive fashion. But now, they're going to be facing again.